Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well, Matt. How about you?
Oh man, we are so far advanced in our computing at this point. Like we're learning new things left and right.
Oh yeah.
Feel fancy and all that jazz. Oh, well, it's been a couple weeks since we talked. What did we talk about last time?
We talked about
Was
the
it
end times.
Rapture? Yeah,
Yeah.
Rapture and end times and all that jazz. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is a pandemic, and from what I hear on the internet, uh, Bill Gates wants to give us the mark of the beast.
Oh, my goodness.
Were you aware of this?
Well, I came across some weird, funkified Google Doc that people have been like posting all over Facebook.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, what is this? The unholy trinity? Like, I mean, I think it was who? Gates, Fauci, and Soros? Or I mean, it was something weird.
Why is Soros always in this? Like, just because he's rich?
Maybe I was like, does his last name only has 5 letters though? So that's not it. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make
wait.
sense.
You know what?
Hmm.
Gates, Soros, and Fauci all have 5 letters in their last names. It's
So
not
five
six.
five five is not. We're done. Shut it down. This ain't even it. Oh, you know what they did? You have to use the first initial. It's B
Ah,
Gates,
mm-hmm.
A Fauci, G Soros. Then you've got your six.
Gotcha.
Right. So just real quick, I want to throw this out there for anybody who doesn't understand how this works. COVID-19 sounds very scary. I understand that people feel that way. The actual name of the virus is SARS-CoV-2 because
Mm-hmm.
it's the second identified coronavirus that has SARS implications in humanity. So SARS-CoV-2. Have there been others? Probably. Is this the second one we've identified successfully? Yes. So it gets the number two. That's how we do these things. It is a coronavirus. Coronaviruses are similar to the ones that give you just a cold. They are called coronaviruses because of the corona or the crown that they have in their proteins that surround them. So that's how they bind to cells. They use those coronas. Um,
You
COVID
mean it's not
19
like a
is
Corona beer?
no, but Corona beer does have a crown. See what they
Mm-hmm.
did there? Um, coronavirus uh, is where we get the co and the vi. So COVID, coronavirus. The D is disease. So coronavirus disease, that's where we get COVID. The 19 is when we first discovered it or when it first started. So COVID 19. So anybody that you see trying to make some sort of thing with the COVID, they're crazy. So that's not how this works. I just had to put that out there because I've seen a couple of people be like, "This is what it stands for." It's like, no.
I think the best one I've seen so far was the Corona, and Corona has 6 letters. And then if you take the corresponding number to the letter of the alphabet and you add those up, you get 66. And so then they take the 6 from Corona and the 66 from adding the numbers up, and then they come up with 666.
Yeah, because that's how that works.
Totally.
Like it doesn't make sense when we don't use that in our system daily. Like we don't use that numbering system
No.
ever, and we don't use letters as numbers.
Right.
If we did, then maybe I could buy it. But we don't. We use Arabic numerals because they work better.
Right.
It's weird how a base 10 system with 10 numbers works better than I, X, V, D, L, M, A, B, C, D. Like that system. Roman numerals aren't great. That's why we adopted another system because they're way better.
Just a little bit.
It makes math a lot. Well, it's supposed to make math easier. Not everyone
Well, don't
feels
get me
that way.
started on the whole new math deal. Yeah,
New
no.
math is the way I do math in my head, Dan. I don't know about you.
But here's the problem with the whole new math framework. That might be the math that the way you do math in your head, but you actually have a basis by which you're doing that math in your head. If you start off with new math, but you don't give students a foundation for understanding how to break things down, it doesn't work well.
Oh, see, no, some of that new math is really broken down. It's more broken down than how I learned it, and
No,
a
I know,
lot of
and
it.
I think that's the problem though. It's like, okay, if you want to do 37 minus 15, just do the basic subtraction and be done.
Oh, that's true too. I don't know.
It's much quicker, I think, when you do it the old way.
I don't know. I'm not. My pedagogical understanding of new math is not fully developed.
Yeah, having a math degree, mm, it irks me.
But again, like I get it because all of the new stuff is how I do it in my head.
Hmm.
Like it's how I get to a place where it's like, oh, I understand that if I take 3 from this, that works because I'm multiplying by 3, so then I can change that number and then subtract 3 and do the math quicker.
Now you have to remember what numbers you have though, because you keep changing the numbers, you
Well,
have to.
that's
Yeah,
true, but yeah, I'm down with it. So, but to go back to coronavirus and of
yeah.
the mark of the Soros, as it were, um, it just doesn't make sense to be freaking out about coronavirus and vaccines being the mark of the beast, especially since we've had vaccines for 150 years now.
But you have to realize this is a new vaccine, and this new vaccine is going to cause for us to
Okay,
be
so
able to receive the
correct
mark.
me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I did not get the chickenpox and or varicella vaccine.
Hmm.
I got chickenpox before the
Right.
vaccine came out. Me and my little sister both did.
Hmm.
My daughter has the varicella vaccine,
Hmm.
and I believe my wife does as well. I don't think she's ever had chickenpox.
Right.
Why didn't we? If the mark is coming, why didn't wasn't it in an earlier vaccine?
Because we've just now developed all the technology apparently that we need in order to truly have the mark.
But okay, so what technology do we need to get it? Like that's I don't understand that part. I guess maybe is
I
that
guess
what I'm missing? Is it the
yeah.
5G that's giving us the technology to do this?
Well, of course, it's the 5G, and now we can implant the microchips under the skin. So, I mean,
But we've been doing that for 15 years with animals.
but not in humans. And so we had to make it tiny enough to where you wouldn't even realize you were getting it. These are the crazy things that I hear people saying all the time. Trust me, I don't believe this, but these are the things I hear people saying on a consistent basis. And I'm
So
just
they're
thinking to myself,
so
no.
so they're trying to sneak it in,
Right.
even though it's something that's visible,
This is
according to
what,
the text.
according to the text of the
Right.
Bible.
That's the one I'm looking at this point or thinking
Yeah,
about.
no, this is only according to like people out here on
Fair
the
enough.
internet.
I'm well, right, but according to the text of the Bible, it's a visible mark, right?
Oh, well, what do you mean by visible mark? Because that can get a little tricky.
Yeah, that's true. It's known that you have it. It's
You can't,
identifiable.
yes, there's no way for you, particularly, and I hear this mostly amongst Christians, there's no way for
Imagine
you as
that.
a, huh?
I said, imagine that.
Oh, yeah. There's no way for you as a Christian to take the mark without knowing it. It's
So,
it's an impossibility.
okay. Now, if you haven't watched 2 weeks ago's conversation, we discussed millennial theology to a great extent.
Mhm.
Great extent is a strong word. We discussed it, but most of the people I see complaining or are being fearful of this are
Mhm.
people who hold to a pre-tribulation, premillennial, dispensational rapture understanding
Which means
that
that
they shouldn't be worried about this.
there's no reason for them to be worried about it because in their own theology, it would not affect them at all.
So why are they worried about it?
It's the same reason why people are trying to figure out who the Antichrist is going to be. And people have done this for years, though. It's, well, is it Hillary Clinton? Is it Barack Obama? Is it Saddam Hussein? Is it Hitler? Is it Mussolini? I mean, all of these names have been tossed out there. I mean, Ronald Reagan, only because of the fact that his first name, middle name, and last name each had 6 letters in it. And so that was actually a theory that someone put out there. And when I stop and I look at it, if you really believe that you are about to be snatched out of this earth before any of this stuff goes down, why are you so concerned? I
I
don't
got
get it.
nothing. I got nothing. I just don't. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just the fear. Again, if you're going to be snatched up, there's no reason, like you said, there's no reason to be afraid. What benefits are there of identifying it even?
I mean, so I asked a friend of mine who holds to this form of theology that very question. And the only reasoning that they could give me was, well, maybe if I get it right, my friends and my neighbors who don't know Jesus will suddenly recognize that I was right, and they'll give their hearts to Jesus.
I
The
mean,
forced.
I don't hate that idea, but like they're going to be at a point where they either have to. Okay, let's take that as like let's just take that and run with it for a second.
Okay.
So the fact that you have disappeared along with all the Christians, that's not enough.
No, because they're just going to think that everybody was, aliens.
Right, that's a big alien deduction. Unless
Right.
it's not, because the way is narrow. But that's, I guess, a whole other issue. Then maybe they should be looking out for the mark of the beast. Okay, but let's say that you're gone, and you've been telling them this, that you're gonna leave at this trumpet, which is secret. I don't understand. But let's say that happens. Then you think that you identifying the mark will then give them more belief that you were right. And in the face of not eating, not buying, selling, or anything, they're going to put more faith in you than they are the government, which is what they've been putting their faith in so far. Is that basically what?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've got a grasp on it, I think. So that's half the battle.
Okay, but okay, let me explain this. When I was a kid, I still remember this. I mean, it was one of those end times sermons
Mm-hmm.
that you hear that it was like, oh dear, okay, I've got to make sure that I'm ready to go when the trumpet blows. I have to make sure that I can be one of the secret people to hear the secret trumpet so I can know it's time to secretly get out of here. And
Deuces.
yeah, I mean, and I remember this guy. I promise you, if I go back and dig hard enough, I can probably still find this old cassette from the 1990s where this guy talked about the tribulation kit, and that was the name of his message. And he
Like
explained that
Kit, like Knight Rider?
yeah, like a kit that you put together though, just to have like a
Oh,
safety kit.
not the car,
Oh no, I wish.
right? Like one of those is way cooler.
but what but what he wanted to do is he explained you have to be able because you can neither buy nor sell unless you have the mark of the beast, according to Revelation 13. So you need to be able, and this man actually said you needed to learn how to pray manna from heaven so you could collect it in order to be able to eat because you could neither buy nor sell, which meant that you couldn't actually, buy food. You needed to make sure that you had, seeds and you were able to plant, and you needed to make sure that you had the food hidden so other people wouldn't steal it, and when you ran out,
Why are they stealing my food?
because everybody's going to need food and not everybody's going to be able to buy or sell because The people
So
who don't take the mark.
let me hold on,
Yes.
hold on. So you're telling me that what we're doing here is we're creating a new group of believers, basically, during the time of the mark of the beast, and yet we're still going to be selfish and hoard our food. But you're telling me it's the church.
Well, not everybody who doesn't take the mark, apparently. Like they're gonna be, they're gonna be these unbelievers who are gonna be skeptical. Your
Who in the
conspiracy
world is going to be skeptical?
your conspiracy theorists are still gonna be out there, and people might take your food because they're trying to survive too, but they are refusing to take the mark, at least in the beginning. I'm telling you, I still remember this sermon, if you can call it that.
It's not like okay. That's just not in the text anywhere.
No, it's not in the text anywhere. And I think that's part of the issue is that I remember hearing a Revelation scholar once make the comment that, remember, what was the movie? End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Okay.
where he was fighting demons
As you
and
do.
something else was going
Did
on.
he have was he fighting him with a machine gun? Because I found that works.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that was the case.
Of
And
course
this is what I heard, though. That movie was more legitimate in reflecting what the biblical text said than most Christian movies were.
I mean, that's not wrong either.
And I'm like, okay. So I think the question that we have to look at is, what does the text actually say?
Not as much as we think it does.
Mm-mm.
So let's go down the list of things that we should talk about in Revelation, whether this especially the word in Greek appears in Revelation. It's a short list, and I know the answers, but I'm going to ask you anyways, Dan. The first one is, how many times does Antichrist appear in Revelation?
0.
But the whole book's about the Antichrist. Why is it not in there? Anyways, number 2, how many times does the word rapture appear in the book of Revelation?
Oh, that's easy. 0, because it appears 0 times in the entire Bible.
Well, that's true. I was more looking for, like, even if we say parousia, how many times does that appear in Revelation? Does it? Or am I... Hold on, I can look this up.
I still want to say
You
none.
keep thinking.
I still want to say none, but wait. Now
Are you questioning that?
You know what? I don't think parousia does. It's exousia that shows up.
But parousia is the word
Right. Yeah, no. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
in Thessalonians.
Yeah, no. Exousia shows up, not parousia. I had to think about that for a moment. I was like, wait. Yeah.
For our people who aren't watching the stream right now, I have out a dictionary that, if it doesn't appear a lot, shows me all of them. So I'm looking there to see if it tells me. Oh, para is such a word. Okay.
Yeah, I am pretty sure.
It's
You got it?
20. It's 24 times, so it's not going to give me all the listings.
You want
You
the
can look it up.
listings?
Do you have
I
it in
got
the
you.
concordance? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it does not appear in Revelation. It is exousia that appears in Revelation. So the term appears in Matthew
Well, I bet.
4
For the
times.
coming. Yeah.
All in chapter 24.
Yep. Imagine that.
Oh, wait. When we talk about the resurrection in 1 Corinthians in chapter 15,
Mm-hmm.
right before we get there, it talks about, Christ the first fruits, then at his coming, those who belong to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. It's used in at the end of First Corinthians, talking about the coming of Stephanus and Fortunatus. It's mentioned in Second Corinthians about the coming of an individual. Yeah, so
obviously the verb, the word, is it a verb?
huh? It's a noun.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, that doesn't sound like a verb, but then I got confused by my own self.
Yeah, no, it's a noun.
It doesn't imply a taken away, and the rapture is, like you said, it's not a biblical word at all. But that taking away, the coming of the Lord on the clouds there in 1 Thessalonians 4:16 doesn't indicate that. Neither, again, does any of Revelation. Now, if you have that as your theological framework, you can find it in Revelation.
Only if you impose it upon the text.
Right. But I think this is something that, we don't have to talk about this more later, but some people in a group asked about Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
And which Bible is best, like translation-wise.
No, I'm following.
And a lot of people really like the Christian Standard Bible and the English Standard Version.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them have complementarian leanings.
Well, every translation has some kind of
bias. Yes. We'd like to lower those biases. The NIV does a pretty good job overall of lowering its theological biases in the translation of the text. The New Living does okay. The Net Bible does not do great, but the beautiful thing about the Net Bible is they tell you exactly why they did it.
Right.
Right? The note on 1 Corinthians 34 and 35 and whether or not it's in the text is ginormous in that Bible, and especially if you look it up online. You can see the entire note.
You know about the issue from chapter 14?
Yeah, 14, 34, and 35. Whether it existed in the original text, whether it was added, what's going on there. Gordon Fee obviously is one of the major scholars, a big textual critic, and then 1 Corinthians scholar who was like, it looks like it was probably added later. Right. And they have a whole note on that. Like it's an intense note. So the Net Bible,
here's what I appreciate though,
gives it that. Yeah.
When you look at translations and translation committees
are always good.
And I think the issue is this. Look at I use the ESV. I preach from the ESV on a consistent basis, but I feel like I'm able to utilize it in a proper framework because I recognize the biases.
And that's the thing is, if you recognize the biases, you're a step ahead. So like a lot of people didn't like the 2011 NIV because they translated Adelphoi as brothers and sisters. Which, if you have any sort of understanding in gendered language, you know that a masculine plural does not indicate simply a masculine plural group.
Correct.
That is gender neutral unless there's some sort of indicator that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And which makes gendered languages harder to read and understand sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But translation means that you probably should make them gender neutral, which is what the NIV 2011 did.
Well, let's not go with gender neutral. Let's go with gender accurate.
Oh, yes, or gender inclusive, if you want to put it that way. But accurate is probably the best way to put it.
I think that's the big thing. I think when you look at it, so I look at the Common English Bible, and I know people who were on that translation committee, the same way I know people who were on the ESV translation committee. But when you look at the theological diversity of the Common English Bible translation committee, you've got people from a wide variety of Christian backgrounds. And I think that makes a huge difference. Now, their whole issue of translating the Son of Man as the human one is that's another issue altogether.
That's bad.
But beyond that, I was like, okay.
Yeah. And so, specifically, if you're looking at your English Standard Version, because it's the place that I've seen it the easiest, is Genesis 3:16, where it says, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing, in pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you."
Wait, you said your desire shall be for your husband?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the older ESV.
Oh, is it? Did they update it?
In the
I don't.
newer ESV from
Which
2016, it says, I think it's the ESV 2011 that had, or 2001, whichever year that was. Yeah, ESV, I think from 2001 said, your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. The latest edition says, your desire shall be contrary to your husband,
ooh, which is
and he shall
better.
rule over you.
Which
And
is a
so,
better translation because this translation implies that the domineering masculine society was part of the pre-fall, because this doesn't say contrary, it says desire. Your want will be for your husband, not that there will be a power struggle,
and
which
see,
is what the
I
text
still think,
seems to indicate.
well, see, I still think that the power struggle is actually present in both translations.
How would you say
Let me explain this.
that the power struggle is there in the word desire for, not desire
Because,
against, but desire for your husband?
precisely, because of the fact that when you look at the ESV in the UK, it still has your desire shall be for your husband. The issue really boils down to the portrayal of the woman in the relationship. So to say your desire shall be for your husband is saying your desire shall be for your husband. It's in line with your husband, because when you look at the original creation accounts
Wait,
and
which
you
one?
explore them, huh?
Which one?
Let's go to Genesis 1.
Okay, so first creation count. Continue. I just
Yes,
want to
first
make sure
creation
we're on
account.
the.
You turn around and you see that God has given dominion to humanity, both male and female. He
Right.
created them.
Yeah.
So they both had dominion, they both had power. It was a shared authority over creation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
And so as a result of humanity's rebellion against God, the woman desires that they maintain that sharing of dominion. So your desire should be for your husband. She wants what they've always had, that shared dominion over creation. But now, instead of them sharing dominion, the one with whom she shared power now simply exercises power over her.
I get what you're saying. I don't think that desire for. Yes, that is a way to read that text. I think, though, if you're just coming to the text,
Mhm.
desire for doesn't indicate that.
It does, if you look at the original languages a little bit more. I
Right,
do.
but that's why you have to. That's why the original language, and that's why it's a bad translation, in my opinion. Because if you have to say you should look at the original languages, then you've messed up the translation. That's why contrary
Here's the
is a
problem.
better force there.
Here's the problem with contrary when you look at it in the English language. When you look at the idea of contrary in the English language, that language is actually utilized to justify the man dominating the woman. It's used as a justification, because now what it appears as, so I would even say contrary to then is also a bad translation.
Basically, there's no good translation of this verse.
No, because here's why.
Go ahead.
If you look at the idea of contrary to, it's as if the woman is attempting to usurp the authority that the man has.
I can understand how that's a reading. I don't see it. I don't see contrary that way. I see it as, and maybe I do see it that way. Maybe that's what I think part of that language says, that there is a seeking, even that desire for, like it is a seeking to have the authority that person has, but you won't have it. And like
Right.
there's a power struggle. That contrary, I think pulls that.
I think the issue is this, though. Contrary is often utilized to say that she aims to usurp the authority of her husband, not to share the authority again. That is why I prefer for your husband as
Is that
opposed
what
to
it?
contrary.
Is that what the text is saying? Is it saying that she wants to share authority still, or is it saying that there will be a power struggle and he will dominate? I mean,
I would
either way, the moral of the fall here is that we're on the same page here. Is that
Yeah,
the fall eliminates the fall puts enmity in the equality.
correct.
So that is clear, period. But we also want to affirm that the creation was equal.
Correct. That the
So
only reason why there is disparity in the power in power, or that there is any power struggle, is due to the fact that humanity rebelled against God and sin came into the world through Adam.
right, and we see this. I understand that this is not what Paul's point is in Galatians 3:28, but that's what he is saying, is that the curse has been reversed. There is no slave free, male, female, Greek, Gentile, or sorry, Jew or Greek. It is, we're all one, because that has been done away with. So
Mm-hmm.
Paul is trying to make that point generally, and I think it also applies specifically because of the way the language works. But
Mm-hmm.
I know people who will argue that that does not apply to equality, and I don't understand that because I think that that's a misunderstanding of what Christ did.
Well,
But again,
is
that
it a
goes.
misunderstanding, or is it simply me trying to keep in place parts of the fall
I will be more charitable than that, but
that
yes,
benefit me?
and I that goes back to your theological understanding of what is being said is going to affect how you translate it.
Oh yeah.
Whether it is the rapture in 1 Thessalonians 4, the mark of the
Spirit
beast,
baptism in
spirit
1
baptism,
Corinthians 12:13.
how you understand the faithfulness of Christ or faith in Christ, like your theological leanings will impact your translation of a text.
Totally. But see, that takes us back to the whole Revelation thing.
Right.
The text, there is no debate about what the text is saying. The whole debate and all the craziness is what people are imposing on a text that's not saying what people are saying it's saying.
Right, and this goes even deeper because it's not like we're arguing about who that there is a dragon or how to translate dragon, right? That's not the argument. The argument is, okay, so how do we, whenever we see like an airplane, is that the dragon? Like the 747 happened, kind of has a head, that bulb shaped thing going on. It flies. Looks like a dragon, smells like a dragon. Must be a dragon.
No. So let's go to the murder hornets for a second.
Oh boy. Hold on. I need to tell you a story
Go
real
for it.
quick. So, the other day, we're sitting on the couch, and Amanda goes, "What is this murder hornet thing?" And I go, "There's the hornets." She's like, "I read an article about this like a week ago. It was like a scientific article. It was about these hornets, these giant Asian hornets who came over. They were dead. They were found dead in Washington. I wonder how dead hornets from Asia got to Washington. And there's lots of boats. So like it's not confusing how this happened. And we don't even know if there are live species currently in America. And so and Amanda's like,
Wait,
and
so
1
you
week
mean
later,
they didn't
now
just
it's
fly?
murder hornets.
Wait, so you mean they didn't just fly across the Pacific Ocean and
Turns out that's very unlikely.
But wait a minute though. In Revelation chapter 9, and I have actually seen people post this.
I bet you have. Bet you have.
In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns.
You know what's
of
really
gold.
frustrating about this, Dan?
What?
We literally have locusts swarming in East Africa and Asia. Like,
Yes.
literally happening.
Yes.
Where food supplies are being destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Americans are like, those murder hornets, I found them locusts in Revelation, and that's them. It's like, really?
Right.
Like, literally, we have a swarm right now. If you want to call it something, call it that. Not
Right.
this. Sorry.
Wait. But now here's the
Continue.
thing. Their faces were like human faces, their hair like women's hair, and their teeth like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many chariots with horses rushing into battle. They have tails and stings like they have tails and stings like scorpions, and their power to hurt people for 5 months is in their tails. They're called murder hornets, not torture hornets. Come on.
5 months, man, that is intense. So if you're also not aware, there's a guy on the internet named Coyote Peterson, and he allows himself to get stung by various animals. If you didn't see what just happened, rewind, watch Dan's face again as I said that out loud. But he does. He had the bullet ant, tarantula hawk. Like that's just it's his YouTube shtick, right? And he's gotten millions of views, and he does a pretty good job. He's actually a wildlife. His whole channel is much more in depth than that. You know, a lot of good educational content, and even the stings are there, like as an educational demonstration. I'm gonna tell you.
Do it.
Well, you gotta get the views.
Don't do it.
He got stung by an Asian giant hornet. And from what I understand, it did not hurt for 5 months.
Okay.
So that was just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of that.
That works.
That make you feel better about it?
So here's but did he die? Because it's called a murder hornet, right?
No, he's still alive. He's still
okay.
alive. Still making videos.
So I think that's the thing though. What we have attempted to do, first of all, let's go back to what you mentioned. Here in America, we're like, oh yeah, those locust-looking things, those are the murder hornets. And so I mean, we have centralized everything based on our experience in our theology. And all of a sudden, while there are actually, I mean, it's in the news that locusts are devouring crops in Africa.
Yeah, like
we ignore that. Most people don't even realize it's happening.
Right, and if you're not aware, like it's devouring, not decimating. Decimating is taking 10%. Like they are destroying crops, and we're gonna see an increase in price of food because we're gonna start exporting food to these areas because that's what America does. Like, and that's good. That's what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it, like this is an actual ecological disaster, which then, when impacted with this coronavirus COVID-19 stuff, is driving up the price of grain already. So, and now we've got meat packing plants that are closing down. So there is a cyclical nature of this, which is not good for farmers, for Americans. Like it's, when we talk about the economic results of this, people are thinking very short-sightedly of, what about the people who are out of work right now? I'm more concerned about what's going to happen in September because of this. When we have harvest, where is that food going? And can our farmers afford to raise their animals? And how does that look 2-3 years down the road when those animals are mature enough, but they're not there now because things happened? So I understand that that's really an aside, not what we're talking about, not really biblical at all, but like, there's so much going in.
Somebody's going to say, no, Matt, that is absolutely biblical. Because if you look in Revelation chapter 6, that third seal says, and I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine. So people are going to go there.
Well, you heard it here first. That's not what's going on.
No,
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe we're in the throes of the end of the earth and we're all wrong, Dan. I don't know. Maybe I'm not opposed to that theory either, but it's not wrong, certainly not a roadmap.
But if we are wrong, then why are we still here?
Even so, come Lord Jesus.
And I think that's one of the key things right there is, ooh, should I go there?
Yes, you should.
Yeah. So while people are saying, well, you know what? There's this 7 years and all this stuff is going down, but I'm going to escape. Well, if all this stuff is going down and you're still here, have you actually prepped yourself for being able to endure all the stuff you thought you were going to avoid?
Yeah. And why, like, there's so much uncertainty. Why be certain that you're going to be out of here?
Right.
What benefits that? Like, what is the benefit of that to you?
Well, if every preceding Christian generation has had to suffer and
Why
endure
wouldn't we?
tribulation, huh?
Why
Why,
wouldn't
why,
we? Because
yeah,
we
why
think
wouldn't
we're special. We're special, and we have. I don't know. There's not a good answer, and that's the problem.
but I mean, but when we stop and look at it, I mean, consider this for a moment. For the most part, your groups that hold to this framework of theology are less than 200 years old.
Right. The whole framework of this theology.
Is less than 200 years old.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that we really have to look at and consider when we read scripture. I mean, all of a sudden, there was this sounds really awkward when I say it, but this new revelation that there's all these new interpretations of scripture that just sort of popped up from out of nowhere, or somebody having a concussion, maybe.
Or both.
Yeah. And people following it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop and you think about it, it just doesn't add up. I mean, even when you read Revelation chapter 1, I mean, I go here consistently regarding this. John identifies himself as a brother and partner in the tribulation and the kingdom and the patient endurance that are in Jesus. So if John is saying, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm in tribulation.
Okay, but Dan, I'm gonna circle back though and tell you why this is not the way people read Revelation. Okay. Because if it is not a fully apocalyptic secret hiding book, that in the prophetic, not the prophetic, in the foretelling, future telling realm,
Mm-hmm.
right? That means that I have to read it as a critique of empire,
Including
at least
the
partially,
live.
including the empire which I live and love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which one of those is easier?
Well, which one is easier for you to say? Jesus is Lord or Caesar is Lord?
I mean, Caesar, because guess what happens if I say Caesar is Lord? I've got to burn some stuff over there, and I'm good to go. You know, it's that the Martin Scorsese film. I think it's Silence.
Mm.
Is that what it is? The one about the Jesuit missionaries in Japan.
I don't remember, but I think it is.
I'll look it up real quick, because yeah, with Andrew Garfield, Liam Neeson, and Adam Driver. Talk about an all-star cast right there. Like they're hitting on all cylinders. But there's a point in the film where the Christians are facing persecution, and there's a debate. Do you step on the face of Jesus? I think it's the face, maybe it's just a crucifix.
Mm-hmm.
And live, or do you deny and they kill you?
Mm-hmm.
And Americans have never been in that place.
Right.
And so many of them would say, oh, I can't do that. I would die. In the film, Adam Driver's character is like, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do it. And Andrew Garfield's character is like, no, do it. That's not God. Like, it's just a cross.
Mm.
There's nothing there. And maybe there's more to it that I'm missing, and it's been a while since I've seen it. But in those moments, what's easier? Is it easier to just deny, say Caesar is Lord, and sacrifice?
Mm.
Or to actually sacrifice and say, no, Jesus is Lord? And what is that, to push the envelope, what does that look like for a Christian in America today?
Well, can I sort of pivot and rant for a second?
Yes.
when we read Revelation, why are we always trying to find out all the, it's like it's the book that people jump to for conspiracy theories,
Mm-hmm.
which irks me because it is a revelation of Jesus Christ. And it looks like when, and I know Martin Luther said years ago that Christ was neither seen nor known in the book. Boo on Luther because he used it and weaponized it against the Roman Catholics when it came down to him, you know, being all upset with the Reformation going on.
Right.
Not that he was upset because of the Reformation, but that he was upset, and that's what sort of pushed the Reformation, for those who are wondering. But if it's a revelation of Jesus Christ, why are we looking for all this other stuff in the book, but people aren't asking questions about and looking for Jesus in the book? That right there is the big thing that blows my mind. People are looking for the dragon. They're looking for the first beast. They're looking for the second beast. Yes, there are actually two beasts mentioned in chapter 13, by the way. And everyone is looking for, they're looking for the murder hornets or the locusts, and they're looking for the Apache helicopters, and and all of this stuff. But the rare question that I hear about the revelation is about Jesus. Because here's what I see in the book. There's not only a critique of empire, there is a full-blown critique of the church.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and as American
5 out of the 7, but yeah.
But no, it's still critique. Because whether it's positive or negative, it's still critique.
It's still critique. That's right. Yep.
And I think that when we look at it, if we truly see it as a critique of the church, and we do what we are taught to do with, the other 65 books of the canon, where you look at the text, you see what it says in its context, and then you apply that principle to your contemporary context, we would probably land in that 5 of the 7 category with stuff being majorly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not a church where Jesus is like, hey, you're all good, keep it up. It's okay, you got some things that are going right, but now let's deal with these things you got going wrong. Or in one situation, I ain't doing nothing right. Like, wait, what is this here? It's almost like Paul writing to the Galatians.
Yeah.
It's like that last letter. It's like, Laodiceans.
Y'all missed it. Like, I don't know what y'all missed, but y'all missed all of it.
It's like, and that's what I'm like, wait, Jesus is like, I'm standing at the door and knocking. I stand at the door and knock. How can you have a church and Jesus not be there?
That's skill. But again, and this, well, I'm not going to open that can of worms. But
I was going to say, well, I guess if we have our flashy lights and we can make people, we got mood colors and we understand the psychology of coloring, and we can make all that happen ourselves. So why do we need the Holy Spirit?
But and there's so much in just, when we look at the American church, Laodicean church does shine through. Often. Not always.
I'm rich, I've prospered, I have no need.
Right.
But then we also see the Ephesian church that, we're standing for truth, we're standing for right, but we're exercising and wielding the same type of power and approach that our worldly empire has in order to stand for Jesus. So we'll stand for Jesus and we're doing all the right things, but we're doing them using the methods that stand antithetical to the kingdom of God.
Yeah. We'll stand. Well, nope, not going to open that can of worms. But I
want to know what the can was. You can't just do that.
Nope, I will. We stand and fight for our rights to do all sorts of things. But
you mean instead of actually living as the people of God?
Well, it seems to me that the witnesses lived by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. The word of their testimony being about who the Lamb is. So their testimony of who the Lamb is, not Jesus done brought me out of drugs, but the testimony of, no, that guy right there, that is Jesus. That is the Son of God. That is the Son of Man. That is the Christ, the King, the ruler for now and forever. Like, that's who the testimony is about.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case you thought about getting up at church and start telling me about your testimony. If Jesus isn't the main character in your testimony, it's not a testimony about Jesus. Just
Oh, I've heard some of those before.
if you're the main character in the testimony, it's not. Anyways, um, but that that laying down of rights,
Mm-hmm.
or as the master says, when someone says, "Go with me a mile," go another one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine Christians if the government asked them to go a mile? What they would do? The modern American Christian.
That's I got my rights.
It would be all over my rights. And it's like Jesus is saying, it doesn't matter what right you have. The point is to not exercise them. And I've heard people say, well, Paul exercised his rights as a Roman citizen. I mean, sure he did. But if you look back at Philippi, he didn't do so until afterwards. And after they were trying to kick him out of town, and he fully, well, kick him out of town is the wrong word. After they were trying to get him out of town, and he's like, no, you need to do this. And the whole reason he did it was so that the Philippians would not be embarrassed. The Roman colony would not be embarrassed of this atheist.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for his own good. In fact, he didn't do it for his own good before he got the lashes and thrown into prison.
Right.
And then when he does it, let's be honest, when he does it in Jerusalem, he's really just seeking a state-sponsored trip to Rome.
Boom. Hello. He's like, wait, free trip.
They're gonna pay for it. Let's go.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure it was like, wait, this isn't quite what I had in mind, but
I've been trying to get to Rome anyways.
I'm going to Rome. So
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me how Christians will so strongly hold on to their right to do X when the rest of the church is doing better without the right to do X. Not that they don't wish they didn't have it, right? I'm sure that churches that are persecuted in the persecuted church world would love to have the rights Americans have. But it doesn't seem as if it's helping the cause of Christ in America like we think it should.
Maybe that's a question we should ask China.
Or Iran.
Very true.
I mean, both of those countries where you could easily die for your faith. We're seeing
the church
things happen. Right. And it takes being secretive. It takes drawing a fish in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It takes meeting in the catacombs.
And somehow, these places where Christians are secretly meeting seem to be making a much greater impact on the world for the kingdom of God than where we are, where we can meet freely and rejoice and talk about our rights. And for some strange reason, in the midst of us fighting for our rights, we seem to be failing at fighting for the lives of people who are lost.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to if Caesar is king, or in this case, if my rights are king, how can Jesus be? Right? How can Jesus be king if my rights are? And I don't think that's... I don't think it's possible.
Well, no man can serve two masters. No, he's talking about God and money, but I mean, I think that the principle still applies.
Yeah, you can insert about anything in there.
Right. Because you will love one and hate the other.
Now, that being said, I do believe God is gracious, and I do believe God is merciful, and that even when we get these things wrong, he loves us and cares for us and will take care of us.
Oh, absolutely.
If we seek to put him first, even if we're not always good at it, then he will take care of us. Because sometimes I'm not good at it. And I have to rest in that all the time. Right. But that being said, there has to be a push personally in our own mind to seek the kingdom first, instead of seeking money or sex or power or rights. That just seems like the better thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially in light of murder hornets and the Soros 666.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Well, Dan, it's been great.
It has, Matt.
Do you know what's happening in 2 weeks, Dan? What is on the calendar?
You mean Pentecost?
Ding, ding, ding. So what should we talk about in 2 weeks?
Ooh.
Matt is going to go off. That's what's going to happen in 2 weeks.
Let's talk about Pentecost and the giving of the Spirit to the church.
And then we'll talk about Pauline pneumatology and how they're not the same. I got it. Well, I hope you all have had a wonderful time. I did post the Sting murder hornet video in the video's comments. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, there's somebody getting stung by a giant hornet. And guess what? Did not die. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you again in 2 weeks, maybe. Who knows? Probably.
Yeah.
Bye.